Assalamualaikum and good day. So this video will be on the application problem for second order differential equation for chapter 2 problems. And this is also final exam question from semester 2 17-18. So let me read the question first. So an RLC series circuit can be described by a linear second order differential equation, so given by this particular equation right here. So in the equation, L is in inductance in henries, R is the resistance in ohms, C is the capacitance in farads, and ET is the electromotive force in volts. So note that QT is the charge in coulombs on the capacitor at time t, and I of t is equal the derivative dq over dt is the current in amperes at time t. Right, so we have been given these values right here, that suppose L equal 1 Henry, R is equal to ohms, C is equal to 0.2 farads. So using the method of undetermined coefficient, so it's being specified right here. So it's going to be done by using the method of undetermined coefficient. So we're going to find the charge function QT. So this is what I wanted. What is going to be QT? If electromotive force exponential t equal to cos of 4t is applied. Right, so first of all, so we already know that this is a second order differential equation because the highest order is second order, and we know that ET, so this is going to be the function of ET, it's not equal 0. So definitely we can tell already that this is a non-homogeneous differential equation that can be solved by either by using two methods, UC or VOP, but it's been specified in the question right here that we'll be using the method of UC, undetermined coefficient. Okay, so first of all, I wanted you to identify the fact that here, even though there are like, there's a lot of alphabets in here, we have L, Q, T, R, C, whatever that is, there are only two variables, which are going to be Q and also T. Anything else that is not Q and T, so those are not going to be variables, they are going to be constant. And by constant, I'm referring to this alphabets right here, which is going to be L, R, and also C, and E of t over here, this is actually a function, and the function is already given in the question. All you have to do is substitute. Okay, so step number one is, what we're going to do is we are going to substitute values and function given. Okay, so L, so if we're given over here, the value is going to be 1 Henry, so that is going to be 1 d square q over dt square, and R is going to be a value of 2 ohms, so that's a 2 dq over dt, and no need to include the unit, the Henry, the ohms, those are unit, they're not the constant values. And C is going to be 0.2, so I'm going to have plus 1 over 0.2 q, and that is going to equal the function E of t, which is given by 2 cos of 4t. So by substituting the values in the function given, so that is what we end up with. Okay, so now I'm not going to leave it like this, but I have 1 over 0.2 over there that we can simply use a calculator and find what is going to be the value. So I'm going to update this a little bit. I'm going to write this as an equation of d square q over dt square, so plus 2 dq over dt, and by using the calculator, so 1 over 0.2, so that is simply going to be a value of 5, so I'm going to have plus 5q, and that is going to equal 2 cos of 4t. And according to the question given, so what we're going to do is we are going to use the method of undetermined coefficient. Remember, so if you're using the method of undetermined coefficient, so your solution for this case is going to be q, because q is our dependent variable. So q of t is going to equal yc plus yp. So we're going to need both of these components right here. Okay, so first I'm going to start my calculation by finding yc. So let's find yc first. Right, so now my characteristic equation for this case is going to be m squared plus 2m plus 5 equals 0. Alright, so don't be like intimidated at the fact that we're no longer using y, but you're using q. The idea is still going to be the same. So remember, what happened is that when you have q double prime, so that will be m to the power of 2. that is a double prime. When q is to the power of 1, it's going to be m to the power of 1 as well. And when it's q to the power of so with no prime, so that is going to be m to the power of 0, which is going to be 1. So this is what happened over here. Okay, then using your calculator, so the fact that we have a equal 1, b equal 2, and c equal 5, so you will get the case of complex root. So m is going to equal -1, so plus minus of 2i. And from here, we can identify, so this is going to be our alpha value, and this is going to be the beta value. So now all you have to do is, you're going to write down the yc. So now it's going to be yc of t. So for the case of complex root, solution is going to be exponential of alpha, which for this case is going to be negative. I'm going to have negative t. So multiplied by a cos of beta, which is 2. So I'm going to have a cos of 2t plus b sine of 2t. So that will be the yc. So now that we are done with the yc, we can find the second component that we needed in the solution, so which is going to be the yp. And as we have discussed in class, our yp is going to depend on this function right here, which for this case is going to equal 2 cos of 4t. And so now let's write down the element in the family of derivative. So you don't need a constant 2, so leave it out. So the first element is going to be cos of 4t. And remember, I told you the fact that cos and sine, they come in pair. There will be 2 elements in here, which is going to be cos of 4t and also sine of 4t. So now we can write that. So our function yp of t, that is going to equal d cos of 4t, so plus e sine of 4t. Right, so you want it to avoid using c, because sometimes the c could get confusing with your round bracket. If you're using c, then use square bracket instead, but it's up to you. So then I'm going to differentiate this twice in order to find y prime and y double prime. Cos is going to be negative sine, remember the cycle. So I'm put the cycle over here, so we can have sine, cos, negative cos. And for the differentiation, so this is going to be the direction. So that is why for this case, when I differentiate cos, it will be negative sine. So I'm going to have negative 4d, so sine of 4t. Sine is going to be cos. I'm going to have plus 4e, so cos of 4t. And then the second derivative, y double prime. Again, negative sine is going to be negative cos, so I'm going to have negative 16d cos of 4t. And I'm going to have negative 16e, so sine of 4t. And you might want to check that again. Cos become negative sine, negative cos, and sine, cos, and negative sine. So that's right, so that is how it looks like. Okay, so now let's start substituting. So I'm going to substitute into the original equation. So my original equation is going to be, let me put over here, so q double prime plus 2q prime plus 5q, and that is going to equal 2 cos of 4t. So when I substitute my q double prime, so I'm going to, like by now you should be familiar already, like how to do the substitution. So I'm going to use a shortcut for this. I'm going to start by collecting the cos of 4t, all the terms related. So for the q double prime, just that it doesn't get confusing for you, so let's use q over here, so you know that this is going to be q of p, this is q prime p, and this is q double prime p. So it's going to be easier for us to substitute. Alright, cos of 4t, so q double prime, so the cos term, cos related to that is, so let me highlight all the terms related to the cos first. This is cos, this is cos, this is cos as well, and let's put sine in a different color, and this is sine, this is sine, and this is sine as well. Do not forget the negative. So when I collect all the term with the cos 4t, q double prime, so that is going to be negative 16d. And then I'm going to have twice of 2q prime, remember twice of that is going to be plus 8 of E, and then I'm going to have plus 5Q, and that is going to be plus 5 of D. So that will be all the terms related to the cos for T, and plus, so terms related to sine for T will be the one in purple. So I'm going to have Q double prime, so that is going to be negative 16E, and then I also going to have 2Q prime, so that is going to be minus 8 of D, and then 5 of Q, that is going to be 5 of E, and that is going to equal the right hand side of the function, which is 2 cos of 4t. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing the comparison. So I'm going to start by the cos of 4t. So cos of 4t, this and this, when I simplify, I'm going to have negative 11d plus 8e, and on the right hand side I have a coefficient value of 2, so that's equal to, and when I compare for sine of 4t on this side, so I put d and d together, it's being negative 8d and negative 16 plus 5, that is negative 11e, that is going to equal 0, because I have none on this side, so that's a plus of 0. Okay, so what happened here, I did mention this to you before, like this is simply just simultaneous equation, and by solving the simultaneous equation, you're going to figure out what is going to be the value of C and D and E for this case. The thing is that there will be no marks given for simultaneous equation, so that is why I told you in class that I always strongly encourage you to learn how to do simultaneous equation by using your calculator. And for this case, actually, I've tried to figure them out by using the symbol app. So I have an equation of negative 11d plus 8e equal 2, and negative 8d minus 11e is equal 0. And I actually used this symbol app. Why is it just now? Yep, this is what I figured out by using symbol app right there. This is my equation, so I get the fact that these are the two values, but you can easily do this by using your calculator instead, and you should be able to figure out, so the fact that the value of D, so that is going to equal a value of negative 22 over 185, and E is going to equal a value of 16 over 185. So let me check that whether it's correct value. Yeah, negative 22 over 185 and 16 over 185. Okay, so now that we have all these values right away, I can substitute into my YP and write down my solution, my whole solution basically. So I can write that. So for this case, my Q of T is going to equal YC. So where's my YC? It's going to equal exponential of negative T A cos of 2T plus B sine of 2T. That's my YP. And plus my YP, which is going to be given by, so that's minus right here. So I'm going to have a minus of 22 over 185 of cos 4t. So I just copy from here, and E is going to equal 16 over 185, and that is going to be sine of 4t, so that's going to be QT. So now, if you notice, we have answered the first question right away, which is find the charge function QT. Okay, so now, so question number 2 is that using the result from I, so it's not I, it's 1, using the result from the previous question, so find the current IT. So what is actually the current IT? So it has been given in here. So what is the relationship between IT and the charge function? So the fact that the current is going to equal dq over dt. So for question number 2, so I of t is equal dq over dt. So basically there is just q prime t. All you have to do is differentiate this function right here. Okay, so when I differentiate this function, so what I'm going to end up with is, first of all, so be careful, we're going to differentiate each of the term. But here, so we have product of function. So I have exponential multiplied by a trigo function. So I'm going to assume this part over here is going to be u, and the part over here is going to be v, and I'm going to use the product rule, the fact that u prime v plus v prime u. Now let's start finding the IT. Alright, so I of t is going to equal u prime. So when I differentiate that, I will get a negative exponential of a negative t. So copy down the v. So my v is simply a cos of 2t plus b sine of 2t and plus v prime. So my v prime multiplied by u. So u is going to be exponential of negative t simply. And I'm going to differentiate the v prime. So cos is going to be negative sine. So I'm going to end up with negative 2a sine of 2t. And sine is going to be cos. I'm going to have plus 2b cos of 2t. So let me check that again. So yeah, so that is how it looks like. So I'm going to get cos is going to be negative sine is going to be cos. And this is just only the first term. Remember, we still have another two terms, the yp's. And negative cos is going to be positive of sine. So when I differentiate that, I'm going to have a plus. Remember, 4 is going to be multiplied by the function, by the figures at the front. So I'm going to get 88 over 185. So that is going to be sine of 4t. Sine is going to be cos again, multiply the 4 and the 16. So I'm going to get 64 over 185. So that will be sine of 4t. And that is going to be a function it. And if you notice, during my first video in application chapter 1, so I actually find the particular solution, because we are going to use the value for prediction. We're going to use the model for prediction. But for this one, so the question doesn't ask you anything of prediction. You were asked to find qt and it, only the general function. So that is why there is no need to find a particular solution and only leave it in terms of general. And that's it. Okay, so I hope that is clear enough for you. So you are now good to go to start with the assignment.